All right, Horace, how's it going? Maybe I should start, welcome to the 5 a.m. grind, and then I should ask you how you're doing. What's up, man?
Nothing much, man. Everything's going good. How's everything with you?
No, not too bad. You know, same old. Busy time for you right now, Feb? A lot of real estate transactions, all that stuff?
You know what? It is busy.
Yeah?
It is busy. Normally,
The housing market is on fire in
is.
Ontario.
It's going crazy. But, normally I was like, you know what? Because it's been relatively busy November, December, January, February, right? And I was like, okay, I sometimes look forward to January, February.
Yeah, because it's slow? It's usually slow?
It calms down a little
Yeah,
bit.
yeah,
and
yeah.
then you have a spike.
And spring, summer?
Yeah, all through from I think April to just September, you're swamped.
Right.
Right. And those are all purchases. And then you get in the fall, you have a lot of refinances. So this time, for us at least, it's a little bit calmer, but it hasn't been at all this year.
Interesting. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. State of the Canadian housing market from Horace. Anyways, I thought so for this podcast, we talk about the topic of money. Dollars.
Yeah.
And then the questions I wanted to cover today were the following. Is money everything? Why is talking about money such a taboo subject in society? What do you think about using debt? Is greed for money good? And if someone offered you $10 million to retire, would you take the offer? So a lot of questions, but let's hit them up. I think we'll cover all these topics pretty quickly. Is money everything?
Why don't you start with that one?
Yeah. Okay. I'd say it's definitely not, right? If you were to ask me what my values are in life, what's important, what's most important to me, I think I would say number one, the health for myself and my family. Okay. So health, number one.
Okay.
Number two would just be my family is the second most important value. But number three, I'd probably say career, job, and money are there. It's pretty close. I think I think health, family, and then it's that.
You know, when you said is money everything, I thought the question is going to have a caveat to it.
Okay.
But you just really meant absolutely is it everything?
Yeah, is it number one on your list?
Yeah, no, definitely not. For me, yeah, same thing. I agree with your list where it is health, it's family. Not to say money isn't important.
No, it is definitely important.
It is important.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's not important.
Yeah.
It's the top three priorities.
Yeah.
It is there.
But then when you say money, is it money or is it just being able to live, food on the table, shelter, or are you saying you want to have money for the sake of money, where you could flaunt it?
Yeah. I think I have a good quote on this, and I found this online. I think for me, the goal has always been, it's not necessarily money, but it's being able to live life on your own terms. And the quote really is exactly what I'm paraphrasing, but the quote is, the goal isn't money, the goal is living life on your own terms, which I think is quite powerful. Because for me, sometimes I want to reach a state in my life such that whenever I want to get something, whether that's, something that's for pleasure or just something that you need, you don't want money to be an obstacle, like a limiting factor, right? So that's essentially what it is for me. I don't have to, when I walk into a room, if I want to get something, I have the ability or the privilege to be able to do so, that it's not a limiting factor in life. Yeah. I don't need to fly first class and have a Lamborghini. I don't care for that stuff, material possessions. But I think just being able to live life on your own terms. So take a vacation when you'd like to, take some time off when you want, having that flexibility. Money allows for that.
Yeah. I mean, it's a freedom.
Yes.
You're buying freedom.
You're buying freedom, kind of. Yes, yeah, sort of.
No,
it is what it is.
You know what? There is that freedom, but for me, money is there. Okay, so there's the bare necessities, right? Which for me, to be honest, I don't really care for vacations. I don't really care for much.
Okay.
As long as I get I would like a fast car. That's the one thing that I would like.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, everybody has those little things they want to spend money on.
But outside of that, right? A house, whatever. But for me, the reason why money is important is because it's kind of like feedback that the business that I've started, this experiment that I've tried, right? Because nobody starts a business knowing. You could tell yourself you're going to make money, but you don't know. right? You're gonna be failing. You're not gonna know where. Like if you look at what you thought business was gonna be from like the day you started to when you are actually financially, like liquid, those businesses are not gonna look anything alike. That first business was just a concept in your mind, right?
Yeah.
So for me, money is like just proof that this thing worked.
It's a way of keeping score, is what you're saying.
So it's like okay, well, I tried it, and this is how I. Well, I mean, score is like, correct me, like the way I interpret what you're just saying.
Competitive.
It's competitive. Like I don't really, I don't know. I do want competition. I guess I do.
It's just maybe it's like a benchmark. Okay, like you said, this is proof to me that this is working because it generated X. There's a certain ROI to it. Like I invested my time and here was the return, right? It's a metric.
Yeah. So and it's like the more money, it's like, whoa. And it's not even just money, it's like the number of clients I've got.
Yeah.
Right? That's also a number where I'm like, well, I've impacted that many people, right? I've worked with that many people. For me, those are achievements.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
How many employees you have, they all kind of reflect the same thing. But it's like a sense of like I don't know if it's accomplishments because a lot of things I feel like for me, at least in my life, it's like just being in the right place, right time, right?
Yeah.
But it is like, wow, like this is a blessing.
Yeah.
Like it's like I sit back and I'm like, that's cool.
Yeah. So I'll move on to the second question. Why is talking about money such a taboo subject? Now we went over our priorities or values in life, but I feel like sometimes in life, when people say, "Hey, my goal is trying to make money," why is it that people are like, "Oh, that's disgusting. Why could you be so materialistic or so perverse?" Why is talking about money or even just discussing salaries, being open about that stuff, why is it such a taboo subject, do you think?
I would say life is right now in a transitory state.
Yeah.
Right? As in society is, which is why people are objecting to money being a taboo subject. I think that before people thought money was taboo because it was a material, like part of life that should not be dictating who you are as a person. It should not define who you are. And I feel like over the past few decades, society has just become more and more and more materialistic, where money, if you've got money, you show it. Like if you go to, I feel like our parents' time, you didn't really flaunt money.
Yeah. Our generation does that.
Yeah, our generation, I mean, it's like you've got $10 and you try to flaunt it as much as you can.
Yeah.
Not that in our parents' generation, there was nobody who did that. It was just in general, less people did that, right? And I feel like education was completely different. I do think that our education has deteriorated. Like back in our parents' time, even in the West, they said that somebody graduating from high school had a higher ability to read than current master's students, right? Because now you're just getting degrees for that gratification. You're not really maybe learning as much, right? So back then, if you're looking at just things more substantively or from a different perspective, now I feel like people are looking at it more from a material perspective and not. They're trying to move that to erase that subjectivity from it all.
Yeah.
So back then, definitely it was taboo. Now, is it taboo? I don't know.
Yeah. It's a good point. I think humility is something you should definitely have. Flaunting money is certainly not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is it should be a priority in the sense that, for example, the whole idea behind money being a taboo subject. Yeah. I tend to find, especially in today's society, people have a hard time, like, let's say, even communicating good friends, like talking about how much money you make, salaries, etc. But if you go into other innovative companies, like Netflix, for example, their salaries across all pay grades, all positions are publicly published for people to see. I sort of appreciate that. The reason why I think people should be talking about their salaries and money is you need to know if you're working in a job that's where you're getting paid adequately for whatever it is that you're doing. If someone with the same experience in a particular job isn't getting paid as much, I think you'd want to know that, especially now because we have a conversation around the gender pay gap, about women getting paid less for the same job that a man is doing. I think it should be more publicly discussed and people should compare it. not in the sense that it becomes competitive or it's like a way to
Yeah.
satisfy your ego or put someone down. No, it's just to know, am I getting fairly compensated for the work that I'm doing?
Yeah. I mean, I think for that, there's a balancing of factors.
Yeah.
There in a lot of organizations' interests, it's in their best interest to prevent people from talking about it because they can keep wages low.
Yes, that's very
Right.
true. I agree with that. Yeah.
So that's definitely something where, but then here's the thing: is transparency going to change it, or is maybe a union going to change it?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, because you're still like, okay, well, I mean, if people start seeing what everybody else is making, would they be able to make an impact, or is it going to demoralize them? The other thing is, I mean, this might be a bit controversial, but I don't believe just because you got the same years of experience doing the same things that you should be paid the same, right? Because the person next to you could be working faster. They could be doing something in a better way.
Right.
Right. And so just because you have the same year and industry of experience does not mean you're worth the same. And I firsthand know that, like, there are people who just graduate that I would love to pay 10 times more than somebody who's been in the industry 10, 20 years.
Right.
Because those people are learning, they're quick.
They're motivated.
Motivated, right? And it's like they know, right? They're sharp. And some of the older guys, they're just working off of experience, if anything, very rigid, not flexible, right? Very difficult to tell them or teach them different things. The whole organization bogs down.
Yeah.
Right? Especially if you have a lot of those, I'm pretty sure in any organization, that's how organizations die. Because somebody, like, their thinking becomes stale.
I totally agree with that. I would agree with that completely. It doesn't mean that you have a certain number of years of experience that you should be getting paid more. Absolutely not. It's the impact you make that really matters. But I think for me, speaking just personally, I think it's important for me to know if I'm making a bigger impact than another person and they are getting paid more just because, I don't know, they've been at the job for 10 years, but they're, shifting their weight less than I am. I'd want to know that, because I'd want to know if I'm busting my butt here, I should be getting paid more than this person, which is why I advocate for transparency, right? To a certain extent, to the extent that you can, etc. And just that comparison, because I want to know if I'm being unfairly compensated, I'd want to know, and that might change the direction in which I take my career and the way I make decisions, etc. It would change my perspective on some stuff.
Yeah.
Right. The other thing I'd say here as well is that just salary conversations as well is that you shouldn't be afraid to ask to get paid what you think you're worth.
Yeah.
Never be afraid. And that's one lesson I'd like to impart here to our listeners and viewers. Never be afraid to bring up the conversation about money and then just bring it up and tell them, this is why I'm not happy, or here's how much I think I should be worth. Because it's definitely an important conversation to have. It's a tough one. It's not easy. But you should definitely have it. Definitely have it. Moving on to the next question then. What do you think about using debt? Because interest rates, let's be honest, right now, record lows. What do you think about using debt in general in life? I feel like, again, this whole money issue, topics, using debt, very sensitive that people don't really enjoy talking about.
I'm generally against debt, man.
Okay.
I'm generally against debt. I feel like even if interest rates are low, what happens when they go up?
No, you're screwed.
Right? So, and that pressure is always on.
Yeah.
No matter how low the interest rates are, the amount of flexibility that you have when you don't have debt, or little debt, is nowhere near the same as like just when you're like leveraged up. Because when you're leveraged up, you're going to be making decisions to make sure you make the payment, right? And here's the other thing. If, for example, for a business, too much debt, it's a death sentence, man. And I don't believe in this whack, like your weighted average cost of capital is you take this much debt,
you
this
don't
much
believe her
equity.
finance textbook?
Yeah. Like, it's all bullshit, man. It's for managers, right? And managers who are trying to take a business that is not going to grow anymore, and they're trying to optimize the value so they can flood the market with shares, and that's how they're going to get compensated. Whole different story, but regardless.
Yeah.
What I think about debt, like, I don't believe in selling equity, right? If you have a proper company, you would not be selling equity. I feel like you would want all of it, right? It's not like what's going on right now in Silicon Valley, where you're just trying to push out shares so you can get like a high valuation.
Yeah.
You would not be you wouldn't be borrowing money to increase your sales or whatever. Because for me, what I believe is, in the long run, there are investments, for example, in my business that I have to make today and have to keep making them for the next 10 years for them to pay off. If I have a lot of debt, would I be thinking that far ahead? No, I would not. I would be thinking about how the heck do I make payment at the end of each month, right? And that shortens your mind, your I guess timeline, your abilities as in an organization so much. It's ridiculous. Doesn't matter how low the payments are. I don't care, right? It's like when you are thinking of 10 years now, you're not thinking of like, oh, I want to be just like X amount of sales. In 10 years, I'm like, I want to dominate this industry. How do I get into like everybody's mind, whether it's real estate, whether it's this, whatever it is? How do I do that? What moves do I need to make first, right? And you have a game plan that you're moving towards. You don't have that flexibility when you have debt.
That's very true. Good points. Yeah, absolutely good points. I like that. What I'd say about this one is, and I don't know if you agree with this, there are smart ways of using debt and then really stupid ways. And I'll explain myself here. We all know credit card debt, 20% interest rate. Do not have credit card debt. Just, you know what it is? With your credit card debt, if you can, try and automate the payments, link it to your checking account such that it's being paid right on time. It just goes right off your checking account and it's done. Payday loans, things like that, high interest rate debt, definitely stay away from. That is, as you say, bad debt. But I would say in some ways, there are ways to use leverage in a sort of a smart way. For example, real estate is one of them, right? When you're investing in real estate, you want to try and use the bank's money and the rent that you're getting to try and own an asset, right? Because that's essentially what leverage is in real estate. You put down 20%, the bank puts down 80%. You're getting rent from another party. The other party is really paying the bank debt that you have, such that over time, that 20% equity that you have eventually grows as you're paying down principal and building equity in the property. So I think there are definitely smart ways to do this. But you're right. It could be a cascading effect such that when you have too much debt, that's all you're thinking about. The other point that you made, which I thought was a really good one, is as an owner of a startup or a business, you want to try and keep as much equity as possible. So if you can go ahead and drive growth to taking on debt to a certain extent, then go ahead and do that. Why sell your business if you don't have to? Why do that? Why do that?
No, and I find like whether you're borrowing money or getting money in any other way, and I know this is a little bit off topic. People are like, oh, well, I need that money to advertise. I mean, we spoke about this in a previous podcast. You see like Elon Musk, who's advertising by like by just like his social media accounts. There are ways for you to get around all of these situations without throwing money at it.
Yeah.
And then going back to like just the debt to a very personal level.
Yeah.
Would you, I'll throw this question out to you, take on debt and buy a house at like where it's like 95 loan to value ratio?
95 loan to, no,
95%.
That's a little bit insane.
And there's people who are doing it.
Yeah.
Right?
That's crazy.
It's like you're maxing out your affordability.
Yeah.
You're maxing out, and do you even own the house? 5%. 5% is a nothing, man. Yeah. It's like, yo, like, okay, well, I mean, when you go to sell that house, you're going to give the realtor 5%, more than 5%, because 5% plus HST, and then there's all these other costs that are involved. Well, what do you own in the house? You own nothing.
Yeah.
You own absolutely zero.
Being over-levered is definitely a way to not have flexibility in your life. And let's be honest, in general, more flexibility is better than having none.
Yeah. And then when you have that kind of debt on you, you're going to be the best damn worker ever.
Yeah.
Because
you can't take risks in life. Yeah, you can't take, once you have debt, you have to have a consistent source of income. You have to have a job. You have less flexibility in life. You can't move as much. You can't move cities because you're locked to a home. You can't move jobs as easily. You can't really start a business because you have a mortgage to pay back. It's definitely a lot less flexible.
And at that stage, are you going to be going back to our previous topic, are you going to be going to your employer and asking for money, more money, or are you going to be too scared?
Yeah.
What if they fire me? What if I don't get that next promotion? What if in the long term I'm going to be hurt?
Definitely changes the way you make decisions.
Yeah.
That's absolutely true. Absolutely true. All right. So would you think, is greed for money good? And you know, when I think about this question, is greed for money good? I think about that movie Wall Street, the first one, when Gordon Gekko is going up to the company and saying, "Greed, ladies and gentlemen, for a lack of better words, is good." such an iconic saying. And I remember Michael Douglas doing that in the first Wall Street movie. Anyway, do you think greed for money is good?
No, not
Not at all.
Not at all, man. I think greed for money or anything, for any other object, material, whatever, it's not good.
But what's wrong with making more? What's wrong with that?
You don't have to be greedy to, like, you can make more without having greed.
Yeah.
Greed is like, yo, I don't want anybody else to have it. Greed
Right.
is, I'm gonna have it no matter what. There's no
Right.
framework that you're working with.
Unfettered greed
Yeah.
is what you're thinking about.
Well,
Okay.
I mean, I would argue that greed is always unfettered. No.
Right. Yeah, no.
Isn't
I
that the
thought I
definition
was-
of greed?
Yeah, I guess it is. I was thinking about some greed. Like, if I want more money, what's wrong with saying that?
Well, I mean, there's nothing wrong with saying that. But
Right.
it doesn't have to be greed that's getting you to say it. It could be ambition.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
You're not going to, like, screw over your family to get that money.
Right,
You know,
right.
there's there'll
Yeah.
be principles that you're working within. There's certain boundaries that you're operating within to earn that money. Getting more money, saying you want more, I'm all about that, man. Like, yeah, I want to be a billionaire, a trillionaire, whatever, right? There's nothing wrong with that. But then it's like, what are you willing to do to get to that?
Right.
Is what greed is. Greed is I don't know. I personally feel greed in anything in life is not good.
Yeah.
Because it focuses, here's the other thing too. If you have greed, I feel like it's the opposite of debt, right? Where debt, you're so focused on paying it off. Greed is you're so focused on getting it that you don't realize what you're missing in the long run. Good example, in business, there's things called loss leaders. Loss leaders is, hey, I'm going to give something to my customer or client for free, right? Even though I know I can charge them and I know I can make a little bit of money here, but I'm going to give it away for free, build a relationship, and then once I've built that relationship, the lifetime value of that customer is much higher than me just selling them that one thing, because I'd be able to give this product to 1 million people as opposed to 1,000 who would have bought it.
Right.
Right. And so then if I'm patient, right, and I kind of control myself, right, then I'm going to be making more money.
Yeah.
Greed, I would say, if somebody is greedy, would they be doing that? I don't know. I think greed is just get it now while you can.
Yeah.
As much as you can.
It's absolutely true. I think what we're saying in general here, and even the previous question that we answered about just debt, money has a way of changing the way you make decisions, and you have to be very conscious of that. Let's be honest, money has the capability of ruining families. You've seen mother and daughter, mother and father and son, brother and brother absolutely destroy their families just over money and over inheritance and things like that. So it has the capability of absolutely destroying any relationship that, no matter how strong you think it is.
Yeah.
I would say father son, mother daughter, etc. Family is one of the strongest relationships we know, and money has the capability of absolutely destroying that. So it can be incredibly powerful if you let it have that power. Right? You sort of define how much power and how much it's going to rule your life.
If you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's
that's what it
absolutely
is.
true. Yeah, because that greed, you're right, in both ways. If you have too much debt, it drives you to make stupid decisions. If you have too much greed, then you're also in the same sort of clouded vision. You're making dumb decisions over money.
You're reacting to money.
Yeah.
Money is fine to get, but you need to know where it is and put it in its place.
Right.
Right? So if you're reacting to it, right, if you're orienting yourself around it, you're going to make dumb decisions. Even if it's trying to get more money, you're going to make bad decisions.
Right. Do you think, when people say, money doesn't bring happiness. Money doesn't bring happiness. What's your opinion on that quote? Because a lot of people say, oh, money doesn't bring happiness.
And I mean, a certain amount of money does bring happiness,
I
man.
agree.
If you're out in the cold, man, it's pretty cold out right now.
It is. You need a certain level of money in order to cover your basic
Yeah.
needs, right?
Yeah.
Then you can sort of think
Yeah.
about, because let's be honest, if you're a poor person that doesn't have enough money, imagine thinking about putting food on the table all the time, and that's the only thing you think about.
Yeah.
You want to have money to address those basic needs, and then be able to think about, like, let's be honest, you and I have strong opinions about stuff, but we're in a position of privilege. We do this because you have an income, a stable job, etc.
Yeah.
It allows you to create content, have opinions about stuff.
Yeah.
But if I was on the street and just thinking about food, I wouldn't be able to do all this stuff, right?
You'd be just trying to make rent.
Yeah,
That's it.
yeah.
And you're working,
And it becomes
hourly.
all-consuming,
Yeah.
all-consuming.
Yeah, 100%. And I think, I don't know what the number is now, and I think it's definitely higher. But 10, 15 years ago, I remember reading that at least in Toronto, the amount that a single person needed to earn to satisfy the happiness that comes from money, as in all their needs are met, was around 70,000.
Yeah, I think I've heard the same stat.
Yeah. So, and I'm imagining like rents have doubled now, so I don't know where
it's kind of
that
getting a bit
number-
more tricky.
I don't know where the number is now, but yeah. So it's like you need enough money so that you're not thinking about food, you're not thinking about like your house or anything. Then after that, like, do you really need a fast car? I mean, I do, but I can live. I'll manage without one.
You know what's a funny quote about this is that I found this one online, and I actually really like it. Money isn't everything. They say money doesn't bring happiness, but everyone wants to find out for themselves.
Yeah.
Because you'll always have that rich person. They're like, oh, trust me, I have the money. It doesn't bring happiness. But everybody who's not rich, they're looking at that person being like, dude, like, let me find out for myself, man. I don't need you to tell me.
Yeah.
Let me get there, and then I'll find out. I think that's hilarious.
No. Yeah. I mean, it's because everything does seem glamorous.
Yeah. It does.
From the outside.
It does.
But like at the same time, I don't know. People do have a fascination with money. Now, what I would argue, I don't know if you have enough time.
No, go ahead. Go
But
ahead.
it's not just about the money, but it's what you're willing to sacrifice for the money.
Yeah.
Right.
What you're willing to give up.
Yeah. So like, I don't think anybody wants to give up time with family. But if you have to have like a roof over your head, you're gonna go work.
Yeah.
So.
Do you think money can buy a lot of things in life? Can it buy like love, things like that?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I agree. Let's be pragmatic. Money can buy you a lot of stuff. You can get a woman because she's attracted to money. No, you can get almost anything you want. A car, a house, a job, a stable income, travel, a potential spouse. Like, it can do a lot.
Yeah. I think half of all divorces are around financial reasons.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, money's like one of the number one reasons why couples get divorced.
And like, so like, even if it's not directly paying for a woman, but
it
like,
is bringing stability in a relationship.
100%, yeah. Like, if you've got food, you're not arguing about the food. That's one thing
you're not arguing about money because it's there.
Yeah, so it's like, okay, you're not arguing about heat. You're not arguing about these things that like the lights and whatever. Right? These small things that a lot of people take for granted, right? You're not arguing about any of that stuff. So what are you concentrating on? One another. Now, if you're intelligent, you give each other enough attention, and it'd flourish. The relationship would flourish. If you're unfortunate, you're going to tank that as well. But at least it gives it somewhat of a chance. There's less strain on that relationship to try to break it.
Yeah. I like this other saying, which summarizes this quite nicely. It says that money isn't everything, but everything needs money.
Yeah.
Right? It's not everything, but everything needs money in life. All right, so final thoughts. We're not going to cover the last questions, but final thoughts on money. What do you think?
Definitely important. You'd be naive to say it's not, but you also have to have your priorities straight.
Yeah, I'd say the same thing. Like, there's nothing wrong with saying you care about money, you want to pursue it, have ambitions, etc. But just beware. There are extremes in everything. With money comes some moderation, knowing like how it changes your decisions, your behavior, how your outlook on life. So it's definitely important to keep those values and boundaries straight.
Well, I agree.
But all right, we'll leave it there then.
All right, take care, guys.
Cool. Have a good one.